Well, hello everyone, good morning. Hope you have a great day. As you can see, I have a great day as well right now in Palma de Mallorca, and I'm about to fly to Madrid with the new PMDG 737. The idea behind this flight really is just to try to do the standard normal flight, how it would be done in real life, more or less, obviously within the simulator's limits, and have fun, really. This video series will be, I think, 2 or 3 videos. It would be just too long to do everything in one video, and I really want to take the time to stop here and there and just talk about stuff if it's necessary. So by now you might have seen this beauty. PMDG just recently came out with the 737-700 series for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I have to say it's kind of nicely done. There are little bugs, bits and pieces here and there, but altogether a fantastic piece of software. Okay, as you can see, today we are going to fly the cargo version. I want to give some love to the cargo version as well. The aircraft model is just amazing. Really beautiful. I am using some third-party add-ons, but not much today. I will put the links in the description for them. I'm not going to use the built-in ATC today. I just don't want to ruin my experience today with that. I'm using SimBrief for the flight plan, and I'm going to use Navigraph for the charts. For the performance calculations, I'm just going to come up with some numbers from a real-life OPT. All right, so jump into the cockpit, and as you can see, this is a beauty. It's just amazing. I quite like these details. It's actually looking very much like the real aircraft, though the resolution is a little bit low. I can see it here as well. But as far as I'm concerned, the PMDG said that they will improve the textures slowly down the road. But in general, I think they can be very proud. It's just beautiful. All right, so as I said, we are in Palma de Mallorca. Let's say we are after a crew change. The crew left the aircraft like 2 hours ago. Say they are already in the hotel having fun or sleeping, whatever. So we just arrived to the aircraft and we find it in this state, which is kind of normal. One more thing, PMDG was kind enough to provide a lot of checklists and procedures with their aircraft. I am going to pull these just for you guys to be able to see how these procedures translate to real world. So let's start. Battery switch. Guard close. This is the battery switch here. Boom. Standby power switch. It's closed. Now I'm gonna just tick the items and then it's easy to follow. Alternate flaps master is this one, this red one here. Guard closed. Windshield wiper selectors are in park. Electric hydraulic pumps should be off, both of them. Landing gear lever is down, and the landing gear 3 green lights are on, 3 red lights are off. Ground power is available, so the light should be illuminated. Yes, it's illuminated. Ground power on. Ooh. I haven't mentioned the sounds of this aircraft. They are really amazing. I had a couple of days playing with it already, and I mean the whole stuff is beautiful, but the sounds especially, they are very nicely done. So ground power on, source of lights went off, transfer bus of lights went off, standby power off light is off, and this completes our electrical power up procedure. The next one would be the procedure in case you're not using GPU but you want to start the APU right away. This is more or less the same, except it's going to do the fire test before starting the APU. But I believe if we go directly to the preliminary procedure, it's going to make us do the fire test, or maybe not this one, but the next one. Anyway, let's find out. Yeah, I see some fire test here. All right. Okay, so that was the electrical power procedure. It's usually done by one of the pilots, really. The other one is outside doing the walk around at this stage. If it's nice weather outside, most probably the captain would be outside doing the walk around. But if it's raining or snowing or it's nasty, windy, whatever, cold, then usually the first officer is doing the walk around. It's just coincidence, obviously. Nothing, no disrespect. All right, so preliminary pre-flight procedure. Let's shoot this. IRS mode selectors off, then nav. So they are off, so we put them on nav. On DC lights come on, as you can see, and then they are supposed to go off. So it's all right. And the airline lights are illuminated. Yes, they are. If you turn this little selector to heading status, it's going to show you the minutes, the remaining minutes until the irises are fully aligned. PSEU light, verify extinguished. It is. GPS light, verify extinguished. It is. Service interphone switch off. It's off. Reverser lights extinguished. 1 and 2. Engine control lights, same thing. And the EEC switches should be on and guard closed. Passenger oxygen switch closed. Passenger oxy on light extinguished. Landing gear indicator lights are 3 green. The reason we have double lights, 3 up here and 3 down there, is actually it's not just different lights but different set of sensors. It's just duplicated for safety, really. If one of the sensors fail, you would still have quite likely have the other set. So as long as you see one green light for one particular gear, let's say the nose gear is green up here, but let's say you don't see that light, you can still dispatch. It's considered normal. An interesting thing, the reason for that, back in the old days on the classics, we had only one set of lights, but also there was a way there was a little window somewhere here, I believe, where you could actually check visually if the nose gear was down and logged. And also back in the passenger cabin there was 2 lookout holes. On the NG they are not there anymore, so that's why they had to duplicate. the system. Flight recorder switch is guard closed. Some procedures ask for a test, which would be really just to flick the switch to test and observe the light going off. So that's it. Mach airspeed warning, push one at a time. And the stall warning test. Nice sounds. Hydraulic quantity to check. Well, we should give some lights here. Done. Okay. So, wow, brave crew. I imagine what happened. Okay, so hydraulic system 8888. I think, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but I think there is a bug here. You will see later. I'm about to show you all the setup options here in the FMS, and there is some maintenance stuff built in very nicely in the FMS as well. And I think there is a bug here. As you can see, the hydraulic quantities are 8888, which well, in real life I would definitely call maintenance to fill them up. But if you do that here, service hydraulic fluid, nothing happens. And I tried calling there is a way to call I think the maintenance van. It's actually here somewhere. Yeah, it's here, and still doesn't help. And there is another interesting thing. If you have higher numbers than 88, because as far as I remember, I had like 93 and 90 something. So I thought, all right, let's fill it up. And I push this and it jumps down to 88. So I think there is a bug here. But anyway, we dispatch with 88 right now because I just don't know any other way to fill it up. Okay, so hydraulic quantity is checked, engine oil quantity 93, 98. Again, I couldn't find a possibility, I couldn't find a way to fill that up to 99, 99. I just couldn't. It should be here, service engine oil. If I push it, nothing happens. So maybe it's me, maybe it's a bug, I don't know. Manual gear extension access. It is down here. It's just we have to make sure this door is closed, because if it's open, the gear cannot be retracted in the air. Parking brake as needed, I think is set. And the CDU Preflight Procedure. All right. So talking about the CDU, as I mentioned, if you push menu and PMDG setup, obviously this is not available in the real aircraft. There are a lot of options here to set up your very aircraft with all the callouts and equipment and displays. It's just beautiful. I think I will do some videos about some of the stuff here, because it's really nicely simulated. Enter iris position. Yeah, as I mentioned, the status is showing 0 now. It means the IRS is aligned and the align lights are flashing. That's normal again. That means the only thing missing to have full alignment is the position. So actually just go to position in it. Either you can use coordinates from your charts. I believe we are at stand 313 or 312. Doesn't matter because I'm gonna use the GPS position anyway. But for reference, it's nice to put some gates if you have this information available. By the way, if you go to Palma de Mallorca charts, and 10.9 is the airport chart, and then parking stands. And we are here somewhere 311 or 312, and the coordinates should be on the 10.9 Charlie page if you want to check them. So on the classics, on the older classics, there were no GPS installed, so we always had to use this method. And also in the new ones and the NGs with GPS, you're supposed to cross-check it with the map coordinates, just to make sure it's the same. All right, so our flight plan, we are going from Mallorca to Lima Echo Mike Delta. Flight number is Papa Mike Delta 100. I just made it up. And the routing is Palma, which is our SID, which is our SID is based on Palma as well. And then Upper November 733 to Prado, which is actually the starting point of the STAR, the arrival procedure to Madrid. All right, performance. There is some stuff to talk about here. In the PMDG setup, there are a lot of options actually to have control over your fuel and over your payload. If you go to the FS Actions prompt, you can set your fuel, your payload, open and close doors, and get control over the pushback. And also call for ground services, maintenance, and this is for auto pause and things like that for longer flights, or if you want to accelerate the time and stuff. So the changes you do here will right away reflect in the aircraft. So this is a very good way to set up a default state or a starting state, I should say, before the flight. For the doors, as I said, you can control them from here. Also, if you are calling for ground services, let's say we will need the high loader, because at some point we will have to start loading the aircraft. So you can go to request the pallet loader, and actually it will automatically open the cargo door as well at some point. For the payload as well, you can set maximum empty and set a random, but also you can set a starting state here, and it's going to reflect to the aircraft right away. But there is another way of doing these things, which is beautifully simulated via the airplane service menus. And here actually you will have to set targets, and then kind of PMDG kind of simulates a realistic time to do these procedures. I mean, you will see right now I am going to put the load target here, which is 11.8 tons in the cargo. So once he is connected, as you can see, he's still preparing, but once he is connected and available, you will be able to start loading here, and that is going to simulate a realistic time until these containers are loaded. So this is super nice. Likewise, for the fuel, I'm a bit lost, sorry. For the fuel, we will have to ask for the fuel for the truck, which I can do right now. Then put a target and then wait for refueling. Again, you can set the fuel and everything else here right away, but this is just a nicer and more realistic way of doing it, really, via these options. Okay, so as I said, it's going to be a cargo flight today. Our planned cargo is 12 tons. 11.8 tons will be in the main deck, and we will have to put 200 kilos in the aft cargo hold. So it's going to be 200 kilos here. And to be able to start loading, we will have to request the loader and the cards as well. Looking at the flight plan, our minimum fuel today is 5,576 kilos, so 5.6 kilos to Madrid. Checking the weather, few clouds here, and in Madrid it's cavalcade 20 degrees, maybe some wind gusts later. Projected wind is coming from 240, so most probably runway 18. That means they will change the runway at some point between now and in 2 hours. So for the expected runway change, we will take some extra fuel. We will take 400 extra, so we round it up to 6 tons. So again, we check the fuel service part, can put 6 tons as our target. The fuel truck is here already connected, as you can see, so we can start fueling as well. Okay, so we said our next item was CDU Preflight, so let's do that. So going back to the first page, on the item page you usually check if the active database is correct, and then you take care of your position, which we have done already, the routing from here to Madrid, performance in it. All right, so back to the performance page. Here you would typically start with the zero fuel weight, with the projected zero fuel weight, I should say. And today, if you check the flight plan, is 50.2. But obviously this will change once we get the load sheet with the actual loading. You can put the planned fuel 6 tons. Reserves are 1,379 plus 927 is 2.4, and we use cost index 15 today. Planned flight level is initially 290, then 310, so we can put 310 right away. Cruise wind, we check the top of client wind, 328. Top of climb outside air temperature is +4. That means 54 plus 4 is minus 50. Transition altitude. If you put any departure, that should overwrite the default transition altitude, which is 18,000 in PMDG's system. That one also can be changed. Yeah, so I will put 10,000 feet. But at this point, either you leave it as it is, or you can check the maps for the transition altitude for Palma de Mallorca, which should be 6,000 feet if I'm not mistaken. So let's see. Whatever SID, transition altitude 6,000. So we can put it right there. And one limit, outside temperature 24. It's already set over there. In the real aircraft there is boxes. You would have to put it manually, like here. Takeoff flaps will be 5 today, and then the CG to come. Okay, checking the weather here in Mallorca, and the wind is 2306 knots, QNH 1019, which we can already set. Let's put some light here on the first officer panels as well. Sorry guys, these controls sometimes are ridiculous, or at least I haven't found a better way to do it. So expecting runway 24, and for departure here it's usually runway 24 right, and we expect the Palma 2 Alpha departure, so we can just execute. And since we are here, we can put the expected runway in Madrid as well. So far Madrid is using runway 32, so I'm going to put 32 right. But as I mentioned earlier, maybe at some point we will have to change it, and Prado to Delta. Good. So that's about it. So we can go back to our preliminary procedure and just finish it. Let's check how we are with the loading and the fueling and stuff. Back to the FMS. Sections, ground services. Okay. So we have the fuel, so we can release the fuel card. We have 200 kilos in coal in hold number 3, so we can get rid of that, and also we have the loading complete on the main deck, so we can release those guys as well. So slowly everybody will just leave us, and we are getting quite ready to get the push. Okay, so at this point I would just call for the pre-flight procedure, so we can start doing it. On the real one, the pre-flight procedure is separated between the two pilots, left seat and right seat pilots. So that would be a little bit different, but I will just go through here quickly and make sure everything is done. The overhead pre-flight procedure is usually done by the right-hand seat pilot. So let's start it. Flight control switches, guards closed. Low pressure lights are illuminated. Flight spoiler switches, guard closed. Yaw damper switch to on. Yaw damper light should be off at some point. Standby hydraulic low quantity lights off. Low pressure light off. Alternate flaps master, guard closed again. Alternate flaps position to off. Field depress light off. Speed trim fail light off. Mach trim fail light off, and the auto sled fail light off. VHF nav transfer switch normal. FMC transfers normal. IRS transfer switch normal. Source selector auto. And control panel selector normal. Engine valve closed. Engine valve closed lights illuminated dim, and the spare valve closed lights illuminated dim as well. Filter bypass lights just off. Crossfeed selector off. Valve open light is off, and fuel pump switch is all off. Fuel pump low pressure lights, we have it on the main tanks, that's normal. Not having it on the center. Battery switch, guard closed. Galley power switch on. Standby power switch, guard closed. Verify standby power off, battery discharge and TR unit lights are off. These lights and these are up here. Generator drive disconnect switches, guards closed. Drive lights are illuminated. Bus transfer switch. This one got closed. Transfer bus off, source of channel bus lights illuminated. Yeah, we have gen of bus, but the rest is extinguished. It's normal at this stage because we have the GPU and we have AC power from the GPU, so these lights should be off. Engines and APU fire switches, alright, so we jump down here. Our in overhead protector switches normal, this one and this one. Test switch hold faulting up. Master caution should be illuminated. Ah, Jesus. Yes, it is. Overhead detect illuminated. Once again. Overhead detect illuminated, and the fault light is illuminated, and the APU that light was illuminated. In real life, this is a spring-loaded switch, so you just flick the switch to left and hold there and count the lights. To the other side is the same thing for the fire test. Have wheel well fire, these three guys, the two overheats here, and up here you should see the fire warning, which obviously was on. The master fire warning lights. Yeah, this one, the bell, you could hear it. Master caution lights should also come up. The overheat detector annunciator comes up again because you will have some lights lit up here. As you can see. Engines and APU fire switches are illuminated. Yes, they were. Engine 1 and 2 overheat lights were illuminated here and here. And the wheel well fire warning light also was illuminated. Master fire warning light push, we did it. The master fire lights were extinguished, the bell was cut off, and engines and APU fire switches, they were illuminated once again, because if you cut it out, you should still have the lights illuminated. That's why it checks it. Engine 1 and 2 overheat illuminated, yes. Wheel well fire warning light illuminated. The reason we check it twice, it wants to check it without the sound as well. Test switch release, extinguisher test switch hold position 1, 3 greens. Should go back, yeah. And 3 greens to the other side. Position 2 hold, illuminated 3 greens, released, the lights go off. Suitable fuel pump on. We are about to start the APU, so we are going to put the forward pump on. The APU normally gets its fuel from the left side of the fuel system. So if you have fuel in the center tank more than 1,000 pounds or what it is, 453 kilos, you would use the center pump. But since we don't have fuel over there, just in the main tank, we're going to use one of the main pumps. The reason we usually use the forward pump is because this pump's location in the wing is just easier to reach. So in case it's malfunctioning, it's easier to change for the maintenance guys. But you can use either of these switches. Also, if for whatever reason you want to use the right side, you can do that. Just open the crossfeed and use either of these switches. Or well, the center tank nut that doesn't make any sense unless you have a malfunctioning fuel pump on the left side. But yeah, either of these options are working. So as I said, we are going to use this forward pump. APU switch to start. APU gen off bus illuminated. So we wait for that. So you could see we started up here, came down all the way and stopped at this panel, and we did the fire test before starting the APU. So we have the APU gen off bus light illuminated. Put the generators on bus. Source of lights should be off. Transfer bus off light should be off, and the standby power off light should be off as well. APU maintenance light is off. Low pressure light, fault light, and the overspeed lights are off. So this is good. All right, back to this side. Equipment cooling switches are normal. Off lights are extinguished. Emergency exit light switch, card closed. And the not armed light is off. Fasten belt switch. Well, it's a cargo flight today, so we don't have that many passengers. But anyway, we can get a habit to get used to operate this switch, because maybe one day we will fly passenger aircraft. Windshield wiper selectors are to park. Window heat switches on. Probe heat switch is off or auto if equipped. It's in off position. The auto position would be, I mean, the position of the switches would be the same, but here you would see auto. Wing anti-ice switch off. Engine anti-ice switches are off as well. Coal anti-ice and coal valve open lights are off. Hydraulic pump switches on for the engine hydraulic pump switches. Low pressure lights illuminated. Electric hydraulic pump switches at this stage should be off. Overheat and low pressure lights off and illuminated. Air temperature source selector as needed. Duct overheat lights should be off. Temperature selectors as needed, just have them in auto. Ram door full open lights are full open. Back switches auto or high. Well, we can put the left back with the APU already to give ourselves some fresh air. Isolation valve switch open. Engine bleed switches on. APU bleed switch 1 minute after APU start on. We had 1 minute. Put it on. Dual bleed lights illuminate. Dual bleed light illuminated, because from the left side we have dual sources for the bleed right now. Back trip off lights should be off. Wing body overheat lights off. These are these lights here. Bleed trip off is off as well. Auto fail and off schedule descent lights. Auto fail, off schedule descent are off. Flight altitude set to cruise altitude. Set 310 is set. And the landing altitude should be the destination elevation, which is 2000 for Madrid. Pressurization mode selector auto. Alternate light and manual lights should be off. Alternate and manual light. These are green lights. These are amber lights. Landing light switches retract and off or off if LED. Yeah, they are off. Runway turn-off light switch is off. Taxi light switch off. Ignition selector switch is left or right. Engine start switch is off or auto. They're off. Again, if auto option is available, you would see auto here. In that case, if you operate the engine anti-ice in the air, you don't have to put these to continuous before. You just reach for the switches and happy days. Logo light switch off. It's daytime position light switch as needed. It's unsteady. Anti-collision light off. Wing and wheel well off. Good. Alright, so that would be first officer territory, and this would take 30 seconds to finish in real life, more or less. Okay, so middle panel. Let me change the view. MCP courses set. For now we have 236 for departure. That's actually runway, should be runway heading. I'm gonna set the runway heading as well. Flight director switches on first on the pilot flying side and the pilot monitoring side. Minimum reference selector radio or barrel. We have barrel. Yes, minimum set decision height or altitude reference. For departure, we usually set the engine out, acceleration altitude, which is 800 feet today. So 850, airport elevation plus 800. Flight path vector switch as needed. Let's put it on, why not? Meter switch, you don't need that. Barometric reference selector, inches or hectopascals. We have hectopascals. Set local altimeter setting 1019 is set. VOR ADF switches as needed. Just leave it as it is. It's over here. Off, off. Mode selector map. Sensor switch as needed. Range selector as needed. Thank you. Traffic switch as needed. Pushing the traffic switch will give you the rings, so we can do that. Weather radar off, map switches as needed. I usually have the airport on. Oxygen. Tested, 100%. Electronic flight bag if equipped, not yet. Clock. In real life, sometimes this, with a power change or a power down, this clock jumps to manual time instead of UTC time. So it's a good thing to just check to make sure that UTC time is selected. Then it gets updated from the GPS automatically. Lower display unit selector. Normal. Takeoff config light off. Cabin altitude light off. Disengage light test switch. Do the test. Hold to number 1, hold to number 2. Flap inhibit. Guard closed. Gear inhibit, guard closed. Terrain inhibit, guard closed. Inop light off. We do a system test, because it's always nice to hear.
Glide slope. Pull up. Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up. Airspeed low. Airspeed low.
That's it. Landing gear lever down. Landing gear triggering lights illuminated, 3 reds off. Auto brake select switch. RTO. Auto brake disarm light is off. Anti-skid off. N1 selector to auto. And the speed reference selector to auto. Master light test and dim switch. Test at this point. Actually, you usually do that just before the pre-flight procedure, but it's okay. We do it right now. Yeah, all lights look good. Nose wheel steering switch. Guard closed. It's kind of jumping here and there actually. Step out of trim light. Off. This one. Standby instruments to set. Okay, so 1019 here and VOR for now it's okay. And that is completed here. And pedestal, speed brake down, reverse thrust levers down. Forward thrust levers closed, flap lever up. Flap load relay flight off. Let me see if I can have a better view here. Engine start levers cut off. Stabilize and trim cutouts, which is normal. Cargo fire only on the first flight of the day. Yeah, it's the first flight for us, so we check, can push the test. Beautiful. It's norm, test switch pushed, fireborne, yes, warning lights were on, lights were on. Fireborne were silent, green extinguisher test lights were illuminated. Forward and aft lights were illuminated, detector fault illuminated, discharge light was illuminated. Main cargo fire panel only on the first flight of the day. It's here, check, main cargo smoke test switch. Push, and nothing happens. Fire warning bell sounds. It should sound, but it doesn't. Fire warning lights, yeah, and it should give you the warning and everything. All right, lavatory and supernumerary smoke detection. This one works. Fire warning lights illuminated, lavatory smoke lights, supernumerary smoke lights, lavatory supernumerary test switch release. Yes, VHF communication radios to come later. Audio control panel. Can actually put some volumes. ADF radio that's needed, weather radar panel not working, transponder panel should be on standby, 2000 selected, good. Stabilizer trim override switch, guard closed, and that's page complete. Okay, so it took forever, obviously, sorry for that, but actually in the real aircraft it's not more than a minute. So once we have this done, we can read the pre-flight checklist. So oxygen tested 100%, navigation transfer display switches was normal and auto, window heat on, pressurization mode selector auto, flight instruments. Heading our track 147 and the QNH 1019, reading 0 both sides, parking brake set, engine, and the engine start levers cut off. Good. Okay, so let's see how we look like from the outside. We have the EPU running, everything is ready, so we can tell the guys to disconnect the GPU. And also they may release the stair as well. And since we have the brake set, we can remove the chocks. Okay, so getting very close, guys, to be ready for push. In the meantime, we received our load sheet, and our load sheet says that our actual zero fuel weight is 46.8. It's actually 4 tons less than expected because we had just less cargo. So we can update our zero fuel weight. We make our calculations, and the OPT says that with this weight we are going to use 20 KD rate with an assumed temperature of 35. Climb 2 is automatically selected. Our CG is 22.3 from the load sheet. The trim setting should be 5.57. Is set. One interesting thing here regarding the trim on the real aircraft, if the yoke is pushed and you want to trim backwards, it wouldn't allow you. Likewise, if it's pulled and you want to trim forward, it wouldn't allow you. And actually that is simulated here on the PMDG 737, so it's quite nice. We are going to use the QRH speeds today. It's 202126, and we can set 126. Arm the auto throttle. Now the auto throttle can be armed. Once you have, it actually can be armed anytime, but usually we arm it once we have the V2 set on the MCP. Some companies wouldn't want to do that. They would wait until after engine start or even just before lineup to arm the auto throttle. The important thing is to have it armed once, just before you're ready to take off, really. Okay, and since we are here with the MCP, let's just have a quick look to our departure. Runway 24, Palma 2 Alpha. Then the stream mic. Transition, as we said, 6000. SIDs are also noise abatement procedures for the noise. We should pre-select 3000 for acceleration. Thrust reduction 1500 is okay. So in that case, we will be using VNAV as well. And initial climb clearance 4000. Let's say we have the ATC clearance. As I said earlier, I'm not going to bother with ATC. So 4000. Maximum 250 below flight level 100. It's in the box. And the routing for 24 right, climb on Juliet Oscar Alpha radial 236 to Buckox, this Buckox here, and then Palma 2 Alpha Buckox, turn right, intercept Mike Juliet Victor, radial 279 to Palma. Okay, since we have some conventional navigation aids which could actually help us in case we lose our FMC, I'm going to set them up as well. 17.7, the radial of 236, and we are going to put Mallorca on the right side, 13.3, with the course of 279. All good. So the departure is briefed, the MCP is set, we can arm LNAV and VNAV, and we are just about to be ready for pushback. And actually that is where I will finish this video, and I'm going to do the next one from this position. See you soon.